What if? What if the reality you're experiencing right now, this room, this sound, everything, isn't the real reality?
Like it's a dream, or maybe something constructed.
Exactly, like an incredibly detailed simulation. Okay, that's a pretty big thought to start with, right?
It really is.
Welcome to the deep dive. We jump into these kinds of big ideas. Today, we're going straight into this possibility. Are we living in a cosmic dream or maybe a super advanced simulation?
It sounds like science fiction, but the idea has surprisingly deep roots.
It does, and stick with us, okay?
Right.
Watch the video right to the end because I think you'll genuinely be surprised where this goes.
It connects science, spirituality.
It's fascinating.
Totally. Our guide today, or one of them, is the thinking in the cosmic dream, Watts and the simulation theory. And our mission really is to explore this whole simulated reality thing.
We'll look at the science, sure, but also spiritual development and definitely the philosophy of Alan Watts.
How can these totally different fields even talk about the same thing? That's where Alan Watts is so key. He was amazing at that, wasn't he? Taking these huge mystical concepts.
Yeah, from Taoism, Zen, Vedanta.
And making them feel, well, human,
Yeah.
relatable.
So, the simulation theory itself, the basic idea is we might be in a computer-generated reality, so advanced we can't tell the difference.
And you see the overlap already, right?
Yeah.
Both Watts and this theory suggest reality isn't quite what it seems. It's maybe a construct.
Definitely. And we're going to hit some pretty mind-bending stuff today. The science behind simulation, these ancient myths about reality being an illusion like Maya in Hinduism.
And even things like out-of-body experiences, OBEs, could they fit in?
It all circles back to this massive question, doesn't it? Are we just, characters in the story?
Or are we somehow the consciousness that's actually dreaming the whole thing?
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Watts, with his whole vibe of trusting the universe, letting go, it feels like he offers a way to think about this, whatever the answer is.
A way to navigate the dream, perhaps?
Okay, let's dive in. The science first. Reality as code. If this simulation idea isn't just like a philosophical game, what does actual science say? Is it even plausible?
Well, it definitely throws a wrench in our usual understanding of reality, doesn't it? If it's true, everything, trees, stars, us, it's all information, like a digital dream running inside some colossal system.
It's like we're Sims, but infinitely more complex and totally unaware.
And it's interesting you mentioned games, because Watts often talked about the universe being playful. Remember his line, the Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge?
Yeah, like the universe is constantly surprising itself, playing hide and seek with itself.
Exactly, a self-aware system that's always unfolding, never static. That idea actually fits surprisingly well with a self-contained simulation running its course without needing someone watching from outside.
And the kicker is, science isn't just laughing this off anymore. Quantum computing, these massive universe simulations they're building.
Right. The advancements are making the idea less far-fetched, even if simulating a whole universe is, way beyond us right now.
So the big question here, is there any actual evidence, any hints that reality might be code?
Let's start with Nick Bostrom. His 2003 paper was huge for this whole discussion.
Okay, what did Bostrom argue?
He laid out three possibilities. One, civilizations like ours just never get advanced enough to make these super realistic simulations. Two, they could, but they just choose not to for whatever reason.
Okay.
But the third one, that's the kicker. He argued it's actually far more likely that we are living in a simulation.
Why? How does that follow?
Just think about the numbers. If even one civilization reaches the point where they can run, say, billions of ancestor simulations of beings like us,
Then the number of simulated realities would just dwarf the one original base reality.
Exactly. So statistically, if such simulations are possible and people run them, the odds are overwhelmingly high that any given consciousness, like yours or mine, is actually inside one of those simulations.
Wow, that's a heavy statistical argument. And he wasn't just guessing, right? He looked at our tech.
Right. He saw computing power exploding.
Yeah.
Even back then. And now, think about supercomputers like Frontier. We're talking quintillions of calculations per second.
Quintillions. It's hard to even grasp that number.
It is. So Bostrom thought, okay, imagine a civilization millions of years ahead. They could potentially simulate entire universes, maybe multiple universes, with conscious beings inside them.
Beings who feel just as real as we do.
Indistinguishable. And that loops back to Watts again, doesn't it? The universe exploring itself. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Maybe these simulations are just. Not another way the universe does that.
So our tech today, even though it's nowhere near universe simulation level, it shows the principle is sound. We can create complex virtual worlds.
We absolutely can. We're building the tools, learning the techniques. It makes Bostrom's third possibility seem well, less like pure sci-fi.
Which brings us to computation itself. Is reality fundamentally computational?
That's the core idea, really. If it is a simulation, then underneath everything there have to be algorithms, rules, processing, information being crunched.
And we're already simulating bits of the cosmos, aren't we?
We are. Project EGLE, for instance, started back in 2014. It simulates how galaxies form, using billions of virtual particles. And it does a remarkably good job replicating the large-scale structures we actually observe out there.
So these aren't just pretty pictures, they're scientifically valid models.
Absolutely. Published in serious journals. And they need massive supercomputers. It shows, theoretically, that modeling these incredibly complex systems is possible.
Okay, and what about quantum computing? That seems like a whole different level.
It is. Quantum computers use quantum mechanics, superposition, entanglement to do calculations impossible for regular computers. Google Quantum AI, back in 2023, simulated quantum systems that were just beyond classical reach.
They showed they could model reality at that really fundamental, weird quantum level.
Exactly, because qubits, unlike normal bits, can be 0 and 1 at the same time. They explore way more possibilities.
So if we can compute the quantum weirdness, does that make simulating everything more plausible?
It definitely helps the argument. If the fundamental level of reality behaves in ways we can simulate computationally, it makes Bostrom's idea of a simulation indistinguishable from reality seem, well, more conceivable.
It's like learning the universe's programming language. And it makes me think of Watts again, saying our decisions pop up like hiccups.
Yeah, you don't know where they come from.
Right. Maybe they're just outputs from some deeper code we're not aware of.
It's a fascinating thought. Which leads us to ask, are there clues in the universe? Hints that it might be built on code.
Like cosmic breadcrumbs, what are they?
Well, physics gives us some intriguing, though maybe indirect hints. One big one is the fine-tuning problem.
You mean how all the physical constants seem perfectly set up for life?
Exactly. Things like the Planck constant, the strength of gravity. Their values are incredibly precise. Martin Rees wrote about this in just 6 numbers. If they were just a tiny bit different.
No stars, no atoms, no us.
Right. It feels designed almost.
Huh.
Or in the simulation view, maybe carefully optimized. Like the parameters in the code were tweaked to make a stable, complex universe possible.
It fits with Watt's idea of harmony too, the great Tao flowing everywhere, a fundamental order.
It does. And then there's the discrete nature of reality. Quantum mechanics tells us energy, matter, they come in tiny packets, quanta, not smooth and continuous.
Like pixels instead of a perfectly smooth painting.
That's a great analogy. Some physicists, like Carlo Rovelli, even talk about quantized spacetime, the idea that space and time themselves might have a minimum chunk, a fundamental resolution.
So reality might actually be grainy at the very bottom level.
It's a theoretical possibility. And some studies even propose the universe might function like a giant neural network, processing information through these discrete units.
A thinking universe. Wow. And Watts talked about synergy, right?
Synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system. Yeah. All these tiny bits working together in this incredibly complex, intelligent way.
It all points towards something computational underneath.
It could be interpreted that way. These are subtle hints, not proof, but they're suggestive. But the biggest question this raises is, what about us? Our consciousness.
Right. If the universe is code, are we code too?
That's the logical extension. Our thoughts, feelings, our sense of self, maybe it's all part of the program. We're like incredibly sophisticated avatars in this cosmic game.
That feels unsettling, like we're not really real.
Well, look at modern AI. Language models can mimic human thought amazingly well now. It suggests simulating consciousness, or at least its behavior, might not be impossible for a powerful enough system.
And neuroscience is mapping the brain like never before.
Exactly. The Human Connectome Project, mapping all the neural connections. It shows the mind can be modeled as a hugely complex computational system.
So if we can model the brain, maybe we can simulate the mind that arises from it.
That feeds right back into Bostrom's point. Advanced civilizations might create simulated consciousnesses totally indistinguishable from ours. But Alan Watts throws a curveball here.
How so? He wasn't exactly a materialist.
Not at all. He'd question the very idea of a sharp line between simulated and real. Remember, the principle of unity is not to try to obtain power over the universe.
So trying to figure out if we're real or simulated might be missing the point.
For Watts, possibly yes. He might say a simulation is just the universe dreaming itself. No fundamental split between the code and the creator. It's like Maya the illusion is part of the reality, not separate from it.
Okay, that's a very different way of looking at it. Reality as a dream. Let's really get into Watts' philosophy on this. His mystical take is fascinating. Not a simulation made by some external coder, but the universe dreaming itself up.
Right back to the Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. The universe is this self-aware process that can't fully grasp itself because it is itself.
So if it is a simulation in that sense, we're not just puppets, we're part of the dreamer.
Both the dream and the dreamer woven together. He saw existence as this dance of unity. Trying to control it, pin it down is futile.
Like trying to grab smoke. His line, the principle of unity is not to try to obtain power over the universe, hits hard there.
It does. And it connects to the simulation idea because that theory also makes us question our solid assumptions about reality. It opens things up.
So Watts helps us see simulation not as a trap, but maybe as a creative game where trust and not knowing are actually okay.
Exactly. It shifts the perspective entirely. It's not about escaping the code, but understanding our part in the cosmic play.
So are we just code or the universe dreaming? Watts seems pretty clear where he stands.
He definitely leans into the dreamer aspect. It's about realizing our connection to the whole process, trusting that flow, the great Tao.
Okay, let's unpack that. The universe's dreamer. How does his philosophy really light this up?
Well, his core idea is that the universe isn't a thing, it's a process, self-aware, always changing. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. He used the dream analogy a lot.
Right, like when you're dreaming, you forget you're the dreamer. The dream feels totally real and separate.
Precisely. And the universe, in its complexity, kind of forgets its own unity. That creates the illusion of separation. Me over here, you over there, the world out there.
And in the simulation context, the programmer isn't some guy in a basement.
No, it's the universe itself, dreaming up infinite forms. The great Tao flowing everywhere. It dissolves that whole creator-creation split. We're not puppets, we're expressions of the process.
It's all one thing, expressing itself differently.
Totally. Remember his story about the balsa wood raft? You trust the raft, you don't need to analyze every fiber. You trust the flow.
Right, and science kind of echoes that now, doesn't it? Like Project EGLE, showing complexity emerging from simple rules.
Exactly. It mirrors Watts' idea of synergy. Synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system.
So for Watts, a simulation is just the universe doing its thing, expressing itself. Each of us is a facet of that cosmic dreamer.
Beautifully put. So the next question is, if we're in this illusion, this dream, how do we live in it?
He talks a lot about illusion, drawing from Hinduism, right?
No.
Maya.
Deeply. He saw our everyday reality as similar to Maya. He said the ego makes snap judgments, carving the world up into separate things when it's really all connected.
Our normal way of seeing is already a kind of filter, a construction.
Absolutely. And that fits the simulation idea perfectly. If reality is code, our perception is a construct, like avatars forgetting they're in a game. But Watts said the key is recognizing unity, no real separation between self and cosmos.
The more you trust it as another, the more you realize the inseparable identity of self and other. That quote seems vital.
It is, because realizing that unity is liberating, especially if you think you might be in a simulation. You're not trapped by it, you're part of it.
He had that story about the overword guy trying to control everything, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
illustrating how pointless it is to fight the flow. Instead, you learn to flow with the dream.
Again, the principle of unity is not to try to obtain power over the universe. Don't fight the simulation, dance with it.
Exactly. And quantum physics, with the observer effect, kind of hints at this co-creation idea too. We're participants, not just spectators.
Okay, so how does trust become the practical tool here? How does it help us flow?
Trust, for Watts, wasn't passive, it was radical acceptance. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it. So if reality might be a simulation, trust means accepting that possibility without needing proof or needing to understand the whole mechanism. Science gives clues, but maybe not final answers.
And Watts loved mystery, didn't he? He was okay with not knowing.
Totally. He drew that from Taoism. I don't know, it's the same things I love. I let go, I don't try to hold on to it. The simulation question becomes an opportunity for surrender, not a problem to solve.
So trust means letting go of the need for certainty.
Yes, and trusting our own being too. Our bodies, our minds, they're part of the universe's flow. Like those hiccups, decisions just appear. In a simulation, our consciousness is part of that spontaneous flow. Trusting that lets us see reality as a creative game, not a cage. The more you let go, the more you realize.
It sounds great philosophically, but how does that land in our super digital, always-on, control-freak age?
It's actually more relevant now, I think. Think about his overworked person parable again. Our digital age pushes that obsession with control into overdrive, right? Managing everything, optimizing everything.
We think we should be in control of it all.
Exactly. And the simulation idea paradoxically challenges that. It suggests a system far too complex for individual control. Watts would say looking for the programmer is just ego again. Trust the system instead. The principle of unity. You know the one?
Is not to try to obtain power over the universe.
Yeah,
It's about finding peace within the mystery.
precisely. And it links back to interconnectedness, which science is also exploring. Watts imagined a practical utopia based on trust, not paranoia. In a world of AI and VR, his idea of synergy, the whole being more than the parts, is crucial.
So simulation for him wouldn't be scary.
Maybe the opposite. Proof that everything cooperated. Code, consciousness, cosmos, all dancing together. Which smoothly leads us to those ancient spiritual myths, like Maya, that talked about illusion long before computers. How do they see reality as a dream?
It's amazing that people were thinking this way thousands of years ago.
It really is. These myths described reality as an illusion, way before the simulation hypothesis. Maya, in Hinduism, is the classic example of the world as a dream of Brahman, the ultimate reality.
And Watts connected with these ideas deeply. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. The great Tao flows everywhere. It fits.
Perfectly. So the question is, what can myths like Maya teach us about living in a possibly simulated reality today?
Are they like ancient user manuals for navigating illusion?
Perhaps. They suggest life is a play of illusion, which aligns pretty well with the simulation idea. Watts would love this connection, encouraging exploration without needing fixed answers. I don't know is the same thing as I love. So let's dig into these myths, connect them to simulation, to Watts, and see if other traditions chime in.
Are these myths clues that we're in a cosmic dream?
Let's find out. We're diving through the veils of illusion now. Are we the dream or the dreamer? Guided by Watts' idea of a cooperative cosmos.
Okay, Maya first. The veil of illusion. What's the core idea there?
In Hinduism, Maya is the power of Brahman, the ultimate single reality, to manifest itself as this diverse, seemingly separate world. It's the force that makes the one appear as many. Texts like the Upanishads, the Bhagavad Gita, they explain how Maya creates this illusion of separation.
Like a cosmic magic show.
Kind of. Adi Shankara, the great 8th century philosopher, described Maya as neither real nor unreal. It's not ultimately real because it vanishes when you realize your unity with Brahman. But it's not unreal either because it's the reality we experience day to day.
That sounds incredibly similar to the simulation idea feels totally real until you somehow see the code.
Exactly. And Watts, knowing Vedanta well, would likely see Maya as the cosmic simulation. Our ego, our sense of being separate, is what buys into the illusion. And practices like meditation and Hinduism aim to see through Maya, to realize that unity.
Which connects to Watts' idea of trusting the flow, not trying to control the universe.
Precisely. These practices were about learning to perceive the deeper reality beneath the illusion. So how do these ancient ideas maybe align with modern science?
That still feels like a big jump, myths and quantum physics.
It does, but the parallels are intriguing. Maya as a projection, it kind of mirrors the observer effect in quantum physics, where looking changes the outcome, like in the double slit experiment.
Okay, that idea that reality isn't fixed until observed.
Right. And remember, those studies suggesting space-time might have a computational structure, like a cosmic program.
Yeah.
That echoes Maya as an intricate cosmic code. Watts would see this synergy. Synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system.
So simulation, like Maya, is the universe expressing itself in temporary forms.
Exactly. And computational science, like Project EGL, showing galaxy formation from simple rules, mirrors how the complex world of Maya arises from the unity of Brahman. Watts' hiccups, those spontaneous decisions, fit too, with the unpredictable yet ordered nature of both a simulation and Maya.
So maybe these ancient myths weren't just stories, but intuitions about reality's structure that science is now exploring with different tools.
It's a compelling thought. And Hinduism isn't alone. Other cultures had similar ideas.
Like what other traditions saw reality as an illusion?
Well, in Taoism, you have Chuang-Tzu dreaming he was a butterfly. He wakes up and wonders, am I Chuang-Tzu who dreamed I was a butterfly? Or a butterfly dreaming I'm Chuang-Tzu? It beautifully questions the solidity of reality.
That story always gets me thinking, who else?
Gnosticism. Some Gnostic texts describe the material world as an illusion, a kind of prison the soul needs to wake up from.
Like escaping the Matrix, basically.
It's a common comparison, yeah. And then there's the Australian Aboriginal dream time. It's not just the past, it's an ongoing creation story. And the physical world is seen as a manifestation of that eternal dreaming.
Wow. So this idea is everywhere, in different forms.
It really is. This shared vision of reality being somehow illusory across so many cultures is fascinating when you put it next to the simulation theory. Watts would see these as different fingers pointing at the same moon. The great Tao flows everywhere. The more you trust it, the more you realize the inseparable identity. These myths reflect our intuition of being part of a bigger, perhaps dreamlike whole.
So humanity has always sensed that reality might be more than it seems. How did these ideas lead to actual practices, ways to engage with the illusion?
Watt saw these traditions as paths to the same understanding. For him, myths like Maya weren't depressing. They were celebrations of reality as a creative game. The key was experience, not just belief. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it.
So the practices weren't about escaping the illusion, but learning to play within it.
Exactly. Flowing with Maya, not fighting it. Watts preferred mystery over dogma. The universe is an endless mystery to itself. These myths were ways of saying, I don't know, and embracing that unknown.
And that's transformative.
Hugely. Practices like Atmavichara, self-inquiry, who am I, aim to dissolve the ego and reveal that underlying unity. And neuroscience, like Andrew Newberg's work, shows meditation can change brain activity in ways that correlate with feelings of unity, less separation.
So these practices might literally help us align with the flow of the dream, participate in creation, like Watt said. Let's see what you're going to do.
That's the idea. Which brings us to a really strange phenomenon, out-of-body experiences. If reality is Maya, an illusion, could OBEs be moments of stepping outside the illusion, exits from the simulation?
OBEs, where people feel their consciousness leaves their body. Okay, yeah, that fits the peeking behind the curtain idea perfectly.
It's a wild connection, right?
Yeah.
If everyday reality is illusory, could OBEs be temporary breaks? Moments where consciousness functions outside the usual rules, maybe seeing the dreamer.
Watts said, the Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge. Could OBEs be the universe perceiving itself differently?
That's a fascinating way to frame it. So let's look at OBEs, the accounts, the science, the skepticism, and see if they offer clues about living in a simulation. We'll try to keep it balanced using Watt's perspective.
Do these experiences connect us to that universal flow he talked about, the great Tao?
That's the question. If consciousness can leave the body, maybe it can tap into a deeper reality, the consciousness dreaming the world. Could OBEs be evidence we're more than avatars, maybe part of the dreamer?
Okay, let's explore this. Stories, neuroscience, mystery. Are OBEs doors beyond the code? With Watt's sense of trust, of course.
Let's start with the basics. What are OBEs?
That sensation of your awareness separating from your physical body. People report seeing their own body from outside, floating, even traveling.
And it's not new. Shamanism, Vedanta, they have accounts of soul travel, pure consciousness states. Modern researchers like Robert Monroe collected thousands of accounts. Studies suggest maybe 5 to 10% of people have had one.
Wow, that many. So how do we interpret that in the simulation context?
Well, one way is consciousness accessing a level beyond the normal code, like the avatar suddenly seeing the operating system.
Yeah.
It resonates with Watt's idea of unity. The more you trust it, the more you realize the inseparable identity. People often report feeling cosmic unity during OBEs, being everything at once. That sounds like Watt's synergy, right?
Yeah, synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system. Okay, so how specifically do OBEs link to the simulation idea?
The simulation hypothesis often implies consciousness is part of the code, tied to the hardware, the body. OBEs challenge that, suggesting consciousness can operate independently.
So if consciousness can detach from the body, maybe it's not totally bound by the simulation's rules.
Exactly. Maybe OBEs are glitches, moments where consciousness slips the programmed constraints, accesses a deeper layer, or even something outside the simulation. Theorists like Thomas Campbell argue OBEs show consciousness as primary. Fundamental aligning with Watt's Godhead is never an object idea.
What about people reporting verifiable details during OBEs, seeing things far away they couldn't possibly know?
That's the really intriguing part. There are accounts describing events, objects accurately while supposedly out of body. Studies have documented cases, like patients under cardiac arrest, accurately recalling operating room details.
That's hard to dismiss. How would the simulation hypothesis explain that?
Maybe consciousness is somehow accessing the simulation's database directly, bypassing the usual sensory input. It makes you think of Watt's hiccups. Again, information flowing beneath our awareness.
Okay, accessing the mainframe, maybe? But surely science has other explanations.
Oh, absolutely. Skepticism is crucial here. Many scientists attribute OBEs entirely to neurological processes.
Like what? What's the brain doing?
Olaf Blank's work is key. He showed stimulating a specific brain area, the right angular gyrus, could induce OBE-like sensations. Suggests it's brain activity, not actual separation. Neuroimaging studies also point to failures in sensory integration, the brain getting confused about where the self is located.
So the brain messes up its body map, creating the feeling of being outside.
That's a leading theory. Skeptics also note verifiable OBE accounts are rare, and memory can play tricks. You could even argue within the simulation idea that OBEs are part of the program designed to make us feel free.
Okay, that's a twist.
But Watts might say the mechanism isn't the point. Remember, the data for a decision is infinite. Whether OBEs are literal exits or brain glitches, they still make us question consciousness. They invite trust in the flow.
So even if they're not real exits, they point to the mystery of consciousness itself? How would Watts finally connect OBEs to the cosmic dream idea?
He saw science and mysticism as looking at the same mystery. OBEs, for him, would be consciousness exploring itself. The universe is an endless mystery to itself. In a simulation, OBEs might be the dreamer, the universe glimpsing itself from outside the dream narrative, echoing unity. Everything cooperated with him because he had touched the key.
So the experience matters more than the explanation.
For Watts, yes. Feeling that unity, that transcendence was the key, not labeling it. He'd warn against trying to control the principle of unity, and he pointed out that spiritual practices like meditation can induce similar states. Neuroscience shows contemplative practices do create unity states like OBEs. Suggests we can transcend the code through surrender.
Which leads us perfectly to those practices. If we are in a cosmic dream, can we consciously do anything? Practices to maybe peek behind the curtain?
Yes, exactly. By weaving together simulation ideas, Maya, OBEs, we find spiritual practices offer pathways. And Watts' core idea of trust is the key. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it. He invites practices that might help dissolve the simulation's veil, connecting us to the dreamer.
So it's about actively engaging with the dream idea, not just thinking about it.
Right. Can trusting the flow help us navigate the cosmic code, experience a deeper reality? Watts believed aligning with that flow, touching the key, makes everything cooperate. So this section offers specific practices inspired by Watts and illusion myths to align with the cosmic dream, and neuroscience offers some support for their effects.
Can releasing control actually feel like being part of the universal dreamer?
That's the goal. So think of this as a practical guide, blending spirituality and science, exploring how to transcend the cosmic dream, guided by Watts' trust.
Now, halfway through this deep dive, I want to give you some good news. If you're finding this exploration into the nature of reality fascinating and thought-provoking, and you engage with this content by liking and commenting, YouTube will better understand your taste and will recommend more videos like this to you. So if you want to continue exploring these kinds of mind-expanding ideas, please take a moment to like and leave a comment. Also, consider subscribing and sharing this video with anyone else who might find it intriguing. Now, let's get back to our deep dive. Let's start with the meditation of unity. How does that work here?
Okay, inspired by Maya and Watts, this meditation aims to dissolve that feeling of a separate ego, connecting you to the consciousness underlying the simulation, potentially. Think of Atmavichara and Vedanta self-inquiry, who am I? Revealing unity with Brahman.
And Watts' Taoist flow idea connects here too. The great Tao flows everywhere.
Exactly. This meditation helps you recognize yourself not as a separate avatar, but an extension of the same code, the same dreamer. The Godhead is never an object of its own knowledge.
How do you do it?
Find a quiet spot, sit comfortably, close your eyes, breathe deeply. Then mentally, gently ask, who is perceiving this moment? Just watch thoughts arise without judgment, like Watts' hiccups.
Don't analyze, just observe.
Right. Try for 10-15 minutes, you might feel vastness, connection. Andrew Newberg's studies show these meditations can reduce parietal cortex activity, linked to our sense of self, creating unity states like OBEs or Maya transcendence. Practitioners report feeling limitless, accessing the dreamer. It prepares you to flow with the code.
Okay, that makes sense. What about rituals? How do they sit in?
Rituals of trust, inspired by myths like Chuang-Tzu's dream, help you trust the cosmic dream's flow. Remember Watts, the principle of unity is not to try to obtain power over the universe.
So these rituals are about surrendering control.
Yes, aligning with the simulation as a cooperative act. Watts' synergy idea again. Synergy is the intelligence of a highly complex system. These rituals symbolize letting go of ego, navigating reality as a co-creator.
How would you do a ritual like that?
Choose a symbol: candle, stone, leaf. Find a quiet place, maybe at night, hold the object. Mentally state your intention. I trust the flow creating this dream.
Okay.
Then place it down. Imagine it dissolving into the cosmos. Mentally say, I am the dreamer and the dream. Stay quiet for 5 minutes, just trusting. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it. Psychology studies show rituals do increase connection and purpose. People report clarity, feeling guided. It aligns you with the dream's flow.
Trust seems to be the engine for both the meditation and the ritual.
Absolutely central. The more you let go, the more you realize. Trust dissolves the ego in meditation, connects you to the cosmos in the ritual. It's the opposite of trying to force transcendence like Watt's overworked person. Trust lets you flow, let's see what you're going to do, aligning you with the code as a co-creator. Neuroscience shows surrender-based practices increase brain coherence, unity states. It's like Watt said. Everything cooperated with him because he had touched the key. Meditators feel part of the universal code.
Okay, so for someone totally new to this, how do they start safely?
Right, a simple guide. Combine the meditation and ritual grounded in Watts.
Quiet space, maybe night, candle or symbol, clear intention, connect to the flow of the cosmic dream.
Sit comfy, deep breaths, count 5 in, 5 out for 5 minutes. Just let things happen. Let's see what you're going to do.
Yeah.
Meditation of unity, 10, 15 minutes. Ask, who am I? Observe thoughts. Trust the silence. Visualize being part of the cosmos. Ritual of trust, 5 minutes. Hold object. State intention. Place it down, offering it. Say, I trust the dreamer I am. Feel the flow. The way to become one with the universe is to trust it.
Journal feelings after. Practice weekly, be patient, no expectations. If it feels overwhelming, talk to a professional. This guide invites flowing with the cosmos, like Watts taught. These practices set us up for the wrap-up.
Wow. Okay, so we have covered a lot of ground, exploring this whole simulation idea through science, myths, Alan Watts,
We really have. From Boschman's arguments and quantum clues to Maya and OBEs.
and always circling back to that big question, what does it mean if we're living in a cosmic dream?
It definitely sticks with you. It does. And thank you, really, for sticking with us through all these twists and turns. It takes curiosity.
It's been fascinating for me too. And Watts's whole approach, trust, surrender, feels like a really helpful way to hold this question, whatever reality actually is.
His wisdom, like the Godhead is never an object or everything cooperated, encourages engaging with the mystery, not just trying to solve it like a math problem.
So maybe living in a cosmic dream isn't a problem to fix, but an invitation. An invitation to let go and trust the flow.
Beautifully said. That seems to be the heart of it.
Okay, so if you found this deep dive into reality as mind-bending as we did, please do us a favor, hit that like button, leave a comment sharing your thoughts, maybe an insight you had. It really helps YouTube show this to more people who might be curious.
And subscribe if you haven't. We'll have more deep dives like this. Share it with anyone you think would appreciate pondering these big questions.
Keep thinking about reality, your place in it. Embrace the mystery. Trust the flow.
Absolutely.
There are 2 more videos on your screen right now. Click on one that catches your eye and continue your journey of discovery.